First off, start by saying thank you to the McCaskey family, Matt Eberflus, Ryan Poles for giving me the opportunity. I'm excited to get started.
Can you walk us through the specifics of your injury last season and where you're at health-wise right now?
Well, right now I'm healthy, man. I'm ready to go. As a matter of fact, if we had won our first round of playoffs last year, I would have been able to play. So I'm ready to go and healthy.
What was it with the ankle that had you?
High ankle sprain.
Okay.
Ended up having tightrope surgery.
Nick, you're probably aware of what's happened today with Larry Ogunjobi, who was going to be your teammate. Did you come to the physical with any concern or any worry about what it was going to show?
Personally?
Yeah.
No. I don't have any concerns.
You just knew you were 100%, and you weren't worried that was going to have anything to do with the deal.
Like I said, I was going to be cleared to play at week 1. I was already practicing that week, so I was pretty confident.
You were an ascending player. How difficult was it to sit out last year? What was the most frustrating thing?
It was hard. I mean, I think the most frustrating thing is, right, I was there for 5 years, and we made the playoffs, and I wasn't able to be a part of it. But just being in the locker room, being around those guys, and being in the linebacker room, that was fun. But it was obviously hard to watch and not be able to contribute. Yeah.
What did the Bears tell you about Matt Eberflus's defense that kind of intrigued you, or you know?
I mean, I think his resume speaks for itself. It's in the tape, right? You see what he did in Indy with the turnovers they had, the defense that they had together, and the staff they put together here. So I think that in itself was his resume. I kind of knew a little bit. I've been following their defense a little bit during the offseason. I just go back and watch defenses and stuff like that. So I was familiar with some of the schemes.
Has Matt Eberflus spoken to you about what linebacker position you'd like you to play?
No, not yet. So I'm just excited to get here and compete, and we'll see from there.
Do you have a preference between Will or Mike? I mean, is there one that you feel like you're better at?
Not really. I mean, I started off at Will when I came in the league. I played safety in college, and I played 2020. I played Sam, Mike, and Will. Sometimes I played all three of them in the same game. So I'm comfortable with every position.
So you can play that many positions. I know people have talked about your 40 time being like a huge attribute of your game. How important is speed to being kind of interchangeable at those linebacker spots?
Yeah, I think that's the big thing right now in the league, right? You see what these receivers are running in the combine. You see the speed, obviously, on the field. And in that division I was in with Kansas City and the speed they had, and obviously with the Broncos and the Chargers. So to counteract that, you have to be able to run. And it helps when you do certain pattern matches, right? When you have receivers crossing the field, you got to be able to pick them up. And so it keeps you on the field in certain situations on third down and stuff like that, especially if you can stay physical in the first and second down. So
Is it your expectation to be a starter?
I expect to come here and compete. I have no expectation as far as what role or whatever it is, but I'm here to compete, and whatever happens, happens.
Nick, when you're a small school guy who goes undrafted, are you wired a certain way? And if so, what does that, when you sign a contract like this, what does that mean, given that you might know better than most how hard it is to get to this point?
Yeah, I mean, it's humbling, right? Like, the first thing you realize is that when I came from Division III football, a lot of the schemes I didn't understand. And so I had to take a lot of time to study. I started getting to the facility earlier, and so I used to come in. My rookie year, I came in, and I would just take a couple of plays, and I would study them, right? I'd break them down, and I'd do that every day. And by the end of the year, I went over the playbook twice just so I could understand it, because it was a whole new language to me. I moved from safety to linebacker. And so just that work ethic you have to have. I mean, it's not necessarily about talent once you're in the league. It's about staying in the league, and you do that by knowing a lot of football and being able to play hard and fast.
Do you have an appreciation level, though, for signing a contract like this when?
Oh, I'm grateful, man. I'm grateful for it, obviously.
What do you think about the possibility of playing with Roquan Smith?
He's an exciting player. He's one of the best linebackers in the NFL. And you see some of his numbers, it's impressive. So I got a chance to meet him in the locker room, and I'm excited to share the room with him for sure.
How do you go about, like, whoever was going to wear the green dot next year, like, how do you go about creating that communication, knowing that that's such an important part of that position and relaying what everyone's supposed to do on defense?
That takes time, right? Like, you got to get in here OTAs and learn the same language. Everyone's got to get on the playbook. Everyone's got to be on the same page. It's just one of those things where more time on task can help. But obviously being clear and concise in your communication also helps as well. So it comes with time.
Nick, Ryan Poles in his statement said he senses a edge and a desire to be great from you. How would you explain that? How would you define that from your perspective?
I mean, every year I'm looking to get better by 1%, right? So every time I get on the field, I want to get better, week in and week out. And so for me, as long as I'm getting better, I'm excited about that. I'm not looking at stats and all that stuff. But more so when I watch the tape, I want to make sure that I'm on my cues and not making the same mistakes over and over again. That's what drives me.
Before your injury last summer, where was your confidence level at? Like, you seemed like you were coming off a pretty stable or solid season in 2020. You know, what were your expectations for
I'm
that?
confident in my abilities, but I think more than anything that I'm confident in is my preparation, right? So the times I use in the offseason, watching my film, in the weight room, on the field, that's what I'm confident in the most is just the preparation that I take, and I take pride in that.
Nick, you're coming from the first NFL player ever from Greenville University. Now you want to be a starting linebacker for the Chicago Bears. What's that journey been like? What's the challenge been like? Because you've been taking huge steps up in class everywhere you've gone.
I'll say it again. It's humbling. I mean, it's a crazy thing to think of. It's not something I sit back and think of because I want to work right. You know what I mean? Want to go train, whatever the case may be. But it's definitely humbling. A lot of my teammates from Greenville are huge Chicago Bears fans, so I've gotten a lot of texts from them. But I'm excited for the opportunity. Like I said, I'm committed to my preparation, so I'll prepare the same.
How did you end up in Greenville?
It was the only opportunity I had coming out. So I played offensive line for 3 years in high school, and my senior year they moved me to linebacker, outside linebacker, and I didn't have many opportunities. Coach Lamar Bell called me from Greenville. I came out and visited, and that was it.
Coming off the injury, what options did you have in free agency, and were you happy with, the options you had before you signed with the Bears?
I don't really want to get into all that right now, but I'm glad I'm here. I'm glad to be a part of this, and I'm excited to get going.
What were your Bears fan friends saying to you? Were they putting some heavy expectations on you now?
No, I think one of my friends sent me the Bear Down song. He's like, you got to learn this one. So I think that's the biggest thing.
What's the largest crowd you played in Greenville, or played in front of the Greenville?
That's a good question. Maybe 100, including the band. Yeah, and a lot of my uncles used to come, and we had like a small bleacher, and they would come and we would sit with lawn chairs on the side, so it wasn't very big.
When you were injured last season, like what did you do during the year, or in the time I guess that you were away from the team before you came back and started?
Yeah, so I rehabbed a little bit at home, and when I came back, when I was able to walk again, I was in every meeting. I took the meetings, took my notes. I would come in the morning and watch the film and break it down. And then during practice, I would do my rehab. And during games, I would just watch as much football as I could. That's the only thing you can do is watch. So.
Is it hard to stay locked in when you're away from the team and kind of their day-to-day? Or were you saying that those meetings, you were actually a part of the day-to-day while you were injured?
Yeah, it wasn't hard for me because, like I said, preparation is key to me. So I enjoyed sitting in the meetings and hearing the checks, hearing the adjustments. Because, like I said, I was planning to come back, and so if I was ready to play, I wanted to make sure it was the smoothest transition as possible. So it wasn't hard to stay locked in. I think the hardest thing was just seeing everyone out there playing, having fun, and not being able to do it. That was the hard part.
What did you appreciate about your teammates being able to put through just one of the weirder seasons that you played?
Yeah, that locker room came extremely close, and some of the guys that in the locker room kind of ran together, especially in the linebacker room. A lot of them hung out together. Adversity does, it can bring you together. I think that's what happened with all the adversity that they faced.
Nick, you got a chance to work with Rod Marinelli last 2 seasons with the Raiders. What was it like going working with him, and how does his defensive approach, that scheme, kind of help out the inside linebackers?
I love Coach Marinelli. He's one of the hidden gems of the NFL, man. I can't wait to see him again. But Coach Marinelli, I think the biggest thing about Coach Marinelli is just bring it to a man's attention, right? He's always talking about that and how he starts every meeting. Eyes up, man. Like that's just one of his things. So I love Coach Marinelli. The cycle of the snap. He says it's not for football. It's a lifestyle. So I love Coach Marinelli. I think the biggest thing he brought to our defense was just that mentality of, play your play as best you can, and then one more play. Right? No matter how tired you are, play one more play. So it's just that motor that he constantly puts into you and installs. It's important.
Nick, how much do you know about Dick Butkus, Bill George, Mike Singletary, Brian Urlacher, the whole Chicago Bears linebacker tradition?
Oh, man, you just named all of them, huh? Yeah, yeah. I know a little bit. I mean, I wasn't alive when some of those guys played, but I'm aware of the history. I'm aware of some of the things that they've done. Obviously, the Tampa 2 with Urlacher around up the middle. Marinelli showed a lot of Bears tape. We've seen a lot of those guys with Briggs and Urlacher and Charles Tillman and all those boys. We've seen a lot of those tapes. So I'm familiar with at least that year when Marinelli was here. So.
Yeah.